Welcome to Sleeping with Sarah. I'm Sarah Albritton, a narcoleptic comedian, and this is a podcast where I get people into my bed and we talk about sleep, comedy, and relationships. I'm happy to be part of the Laugh Factory podcast network. For my 39th episode, I interviewed LA comedian Brandie Posey. She was a blast. We talked about all sorts of fun things: deja vu, touring as an indie comic, conspiracy theories, feminism, living in untraditional spaces, and much more. Brandie also hosts the podcast Lady to Lady, which she does with Barbara Gray and Tess Barker. You can check that out on iTunes. You can also buy Brandie's stand-up album, Opinion Cave, also on iTunes. Follow her on Twitter and Instagram at Brandazzle, that's Brandazzle, and check out her website, brandieposey.com. You can catch me on December 8th at the Whip Theater in Chicago. Sleeping with Sarah is brought to you by Audible.com. You guys know this by now, but you can go to audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah to get a free audiobook of your choice. This week, I'd like to recommend I Don't Know What I'm Doing and Other Lies I Tell Myself by Jen Kirkman. Again, that's audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah. If you like the podcast, please remember to rate and review on iTunes and iHeartRadio. Find out more on the website, sleepingwithsarah.com, and follow me on Twitter at Sarah Albritton. Well, let's get started with the show. Welcome to Sleeping with Sarah. I'm Sarah Albritton, and I'm here with my guest, Brandie Posey.
Hello.
How'd you sleep last night, Brandie?
Like the dead.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was great. I'm a person, I don't dream, or I don't remember dreams. At all. When I go to sleep, it's black until I wake up in the morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've remembered maybe 5 dreams in my entire life.
And were they significant dreams?
No. Well, they're very mundane moments, but they're all deja vu. They're all things that I will see at somewhere later in life, but it'll be like, oh, you're gonna pick that up, huh? Okay, and then they do. It's like something where it's never anything of significance, but it's always like a weird moment that you're like, I've seen this before. Oh, I dreamed this 5 years ago. This was a dumb waste of a dream. It's always dumb wastes of dreams.
I had this idea about deja vu that maybe all of our dreams are things that could possibly happen in the future, and deja vus are just the dreams I do.
Yeah, it's very possible. I could see that. The only one that hasn't happened yet, and this is actually, we'll see about this, I got into I have a real white trash cousin that's a horrible piece of shit. I hate her. But for a number of reasons. She's a bad person. I'm not a bad person. She is. But I had a dream that I got into a fist fight with her at a funeral.
Oh, wow.
And I thought it was going to be for my mom's funeral, and it wasn't, because I was very conscientious of not getting into a fight with her at a funeral. But now I'm like, well, there's lots of other people that are going to die that I'm going to have to see her. So that's a whole thing. That's
Wait, so you actually remember? So most people don't remember the deja vu until they happen. So you remember the dreams?
I remember that one very specifically. I remember because it was such an intense thing. Most of them I remember when I wake up, and then I forget them until I'm in the deja vu. But this one was such a dramatic thing that I woke up and was like, oh shit, watch out for this. So now whenever I'm at a funeral and I know that she's gonna be there, I'm like, is this the one where we get into a fight? Because I would like to not do that, because I'm not a common piece of trash.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't know, my dreams have always been right. And I could definitely take her, so, you know.
Well, it's good to know that you could take her, right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Have you ever been in fights before?
No. I've never been in a fight. Have I ever been in a fight? I don't think so. I've been in a lot of mosh pits. Oh, yeah? Yeah, I'm like, I've gotten into pushing things with a couple of people who are just kind of jerks, but no, I've never gotten in nobody's ever hit me.
Well, that's good.
But I've taken a lot of self-defense classes, though. You know, those are always fun.
Yeah.
You can kick a dude with a foam diaper on. Just really release something inside of yourself.
Yeah, I should take another. I took one a long time ago, and I'm like, I should probably take another one again, just to be safe.
Yeah, I organized one for a bunch of female comics 5 years ago, and it was so fun. The guy running it had a blast, because he was usually it's hard to get girls to or like the women in the class to kind of like step up and like want to participate, and we were all just like, yeah, we'll kick you. Like he had more volunteers than he's ever known what to do. And
that's great.
It was really, really fun. And then everybody had material about self-defense classes.
That's awesome. Funny.
Yeah, it was a good time.
My sister teaches hot yoga in Louisville, and she's like that's like her part-time thing. She does that, and she's got like a full-time job on top of that. She's crazy, but she's like, hey, because I'm going down for Christmas. I haven't really been in town for a significant amount of time in like over a year, and she's like, well, like, we got to take a class. She's like, you can write about it. I was like, it's hot yoga.
Yeah.
I have done hot yoga once before, and I was like, I couldn't breathe, and I'm like, and the real reason I don't like yoga is because at the end, they always make you stand still, like, for a minute, and I always fall asleep, like, within, like, 5 seconds. And I'm embarrassed because it's a room full of people, someone has to, like, shake me awake.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, it's also hard because it's like with stand-up, people are always like, hey, put yourself through this horrible thing.
At the very least, it'll be material. That's like people's selling point on it. It's exactly. Like, hey, you might hate it, but at the very least, it'll be good material.
Yeah, exactly. I just remembered while you were telling that story, this is not a fight, but I did knock a guy out one time.
What did he do?
So I was like 18, and a bunch of us, so when you graduate, I'm from Maryland, and when you graduate high school in Maryland, you all go to senior week in Ocean City, and they have all these like under 21 clubs that people can hang out at. And like that's like so not my style, but all my friends are going, and I was like, all right, I'll go with you guys. And there's this dude that I feel like he got a fake ID to be under 21. Like he looked older. It was weird.
That's a weird reason to get a fake ID.
Super weird. But he like came up to me and he put his hand in the back pocket of my jeans, and I was like, get the fuck away from me. Don't touch me. And he came back up to me later and he put his like arm around my neck just so I like, and then I pushed him and I was like, if you touch me again, I'm gonna knock your fucking lights out. Leave me alone. Wow. And then he came up to me later and put his hands on my shoulders, and I pushed him away and I fucking clocked him, and he went down. And then I just like danced away and was like, I want to go get a piece of pizza. This sucks. See you guys later.
Did anybody else, your friends, see you knock the guy out?
Yeah, like people were like, oh shit. And I just like walked away. I was like, I'm not gonna stick around to see what happens now. Like now everyone's when
like,
I leave.
Everyone's like, don't fuck with Brandie.
Yeah, basically. And like I've never, I joke, but like I'm not really a violent person, but like if you cross my path and, violate my space, like bye. Yeah. It's important to like turn from the hips. That's how you hit.
Yeah.
It's not about this. It's about using the whole force of your body. I've watched Rocky a couple of times.
See, I've never been in a fight. I have hit a person before, but I was like 10, and it was like I did it from the hips. I just like and it was something really dumb. It was like I had gotten a cat, and I said like, oh, my cat slept in my room last night, and then she goes like, we used to line up after recess to go to lunch, and she yells out, she has this red hair, freckles, she's like, oh, you slept with your cat? She yelled it really loud so that everybody could hear, and everyone was laughing at me. God. And so then I turned around like I was going to turn around, and then I decided last second to like turn around and use that momentum to slap her.
Nice.
And it was the first time I'd ever slapped anyone. First time I got to the principal's office, she had a red mark on my hand the rest of the day, and she cried, and I didn't even get in trouble because I think the school I was at before, I was made fun of a lot and never stood up for myself. And so I think my parents were just like, all right, she stood up for herself. Good for you.
Yeah, people learn real quick. Like, please don't. My parents were always like, don't be bully. Absolutely not. Don't do that. But, like, stand your ground if somebody does, like, come at you. And I always have been like, yeah, all right, cool. I got it. Yeah.
I'm still like trying to mediate. I don't like to get into fights a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't like it at all, and I don't want to like purport like I get in stuff all the time. It doesn't happen. It's just like one thing that I just was like, oh yeah, that happened, didn't it? Mm.
But sometimes when I'm drunk, I'll definitely get like more hard-headed about stuff. Yeah. I'll be like,
Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Oh, it's funny. I wonder if that girl ever thinks of that moment.
I wonder, because I remember that moment so much.
Yeah.
And I remember I'd seen some movie where somebody pretended to turn around and they slapped around, and I was just kind of imitating that.
Yeah. I wonder how that changed the course of her life.
Oh, yeah.
That's such a weird time in your life where you're just like, words like slept with or like it was really big for us. Like, oh, you're going to do it. We were all like,
it.
Ew, you said it. And like, but nobody knows what that means when you're like 4th grade.
Yeah. I remember playing what was it, air hockey or something, and somebody's like, oh, in the hole, and I was like, oh, in the hole, ooh, because you know what it is, but you don't know, and it's like this weird.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you're trying to pretend like you know, like you're in on the secret, but you look like, like looking back, you're just like an idiot.
Exactly.
I feel like half our lives we spend pretending like we know stuff that we don't know, and the other half we pretend like we don't know things that we know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, like, those moments of, like, realization or, like, you have to downplay them, because otherwise you look like an idiot. Because, like, oh, people already knew this? Okay, man. Like, I remember Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, problematic film now when you watch the end of it. But I remember being a kid and, like, not knowing that, like, the bad guy, like, had like a sex change operation, but hadn't gotten rid of their dick. And I remember, like, the day that I was like, oh, that's what that means. Because when they turn around the end, they were
spoiler alert.
Well, sorry to spoil Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. They're like talking.
And he ends up being like Dan Marino or something.
Yeah, well, Dan Marino is like kidnapped, but it's Ray Finkel is Lieutenant.
Oh, what's her name? Curly dark hair.
Yeah. I'm not gonna pull her name. Anyway, Ray Finkel gets a sex change and but doesn't cut off her penis, I guess. And I remember like asking my parents watching that movie and being like, "What does this mean?" And they were like, "I don't even know how to begin to explain this to you." And then I remember like being in like middle school or high school or something and being like, "Oh, that's what that is. Okay." But like the realization day, like, okay, I feel like now I'm an adult. I know what happened in Ace Ventura. Finally.
That's why I think it's good to rewatch movies that you watched as a kid, because like stuff happens that you don't realize.
Exactly, and you're like, oh, that's what that's about. All right, cool.
Yeah,
didn't know that. Interesting. Learned something.
Yeah, I think it is weird when you find out something and you're kind of like, oh. I should have known that like years ago.
Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt. I do that all the time with like, I never know what like, abbreviation, like abbreviations for things mean. Like what, like.
LOL, WTF, like.
Well, like NASA, all, like that kind of stuff.
Scuba.
Yeah, and I'm like, I know this means something. I should know what it is. Like this whole like last 2 weeks, I've kind of been like, you need to remember what ACLU means, because some idiot is going to like be like, no, well, what does that even mean? And then it's like, no, my heart's in the right place, but I have like no memory for details about anything ever. So, fuck.
See, yeah, with those things, it's like I know the realm of where they're at, but I don't know the exact words, and I'm like, but I don't know, like,
yeah,
I don't know. I've been trying to.
That matters even necessarily, but I don't know. I just have no brain for facts.
I've been trying to be better with my vocabulary. I've downloaded, like, I'm a nerd. I've downloaded, like, vocab, like, SAT vocab, like, things on my, games on my iPad to try to, like, learn. Because I'm trying to just be better with vocabulary, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Dumb. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, somehow I wish that being, like, a nerd, the cool nerd thing was going on when I was a kid, because that wasn't. Man, I don't know. It's, where I grew up was interesting, because, like, we grew up, I'm from Maryland, but I'm from, like, 20 minutes from Baltimore, half an hour from D.C., 10 minutes from Annapolis. So, like... Oh, wow.
Everyone that I grew up near, everyone had at least one spy in their family. Like, my aunt worked for the NSA for 42 years.
For real?
Yeah, for real. Yeah, like, people's parents, like, were in the Secret Service, like, worked for the Pentagon, like, worked in the White House. Like, everyone's parents were government-related in some way. And, like, so... the expectation that everyone was, like, going to get straight A's and, like, have, like, really... just everyone got on roll all the time. Like, so it was like,
wow.
It was crazy. Like, I graduated with like I think like a 387, and I was like 123rd in my class or something like that.
What?
Yeah, like I was a slacker compared to like most people I went to high school with. It was really intense.
So everyone had, so it's just kind of known that there's spies in the family?
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah. It's like, well, I don't know. They're probably, well, I mean, I say spies flippantly, but it's like, oh, I don't know, my aunt worked with NSA for 42 years. I don't know what she did. She was gone a lot. Like, I guess she was a spy.
Yeah.
Or she was, like, a secretary to a spy that, like, went somewhere. I mean, my next-door neighbor growing up was, he was one of George W. Bush's Secret Service guys that was always around him.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'd like to see him on TV all the time. It was
That's weird.
Yeah, it's a strange place to grow up. I didn't realize how weird it was until I moved away. I was like, oh, not everybody just like knows that everyone's parents are lying to them all the time. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's a different perspective.
Yeah, completely. Because it's like when 9/11 happened, but like when 9/11 happened, nobody knew where their parents were, or like where at least somebody in their family was, because they were like gone.
So you didn't know where your parents were?
Well, my parents weren't. My parents like weren't spies, but my aunt, like, I don't know, she was locked down at the NSA for like 48 hours or something crazy like that, like just working and staying there. But like I have a lot of friends that had parents that worked at the Pentagon and stuff that were like, they can't get a hold of them, or they were like in New York, or they just were like, all right, I gotta go to work, and I can't tell you where I'm going.
So they didn't know. Oh, that's scary, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that just didn't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you guys have, like, did you know people that had, like, panic rooms or anything in their house? Or?
Oh, God, I'm sure. Well, our old high school was built in, like, the 40s or 50s. They just tore it down, I think.
Bomb shelter or something?
Yeah, the whole basement was a crazy bomb shelter. And when you were in marching band, which I was, when you were, like, if you were one of the officers of the band, so I was band president my senior year, and the previous presidents, they let the officers know how to get down into the bomb shelter from the band room, and you would, like, draw like a mural of like for like your class, which was really cool. So there's this like weird place under there that's just all these like funky murals where like all the old band officers would go down.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. I'm saying that on a podcast. I'm not supposed to, but
oh, whoops, secrets.
Oopsie. Well, we didn't have a 10-year reunion, so they can go fuck themselves.
That is weird. Like, I've definitely had, like, suspicions of some people around my life that I was like, maybe they're a spy. But, like, I never want to bring it up because it's not like a TV show. Like, they might have to kill you.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
So that's a different thing. And it's like, oh, like, this person says they can't speak other languages, but I think I've heard them speak other languages and stuff like that. Like, it's like, But then I just try to... So, like, I'm actually afraid. I'm like, maybe this person is, and I shouldn't joke about it.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, my friend Anne's mom was, like, a nurse, and she was working, she had, like, a dinner party with a bunch of other nurses, and one of the husbands of one of the people she worked with, I forget what he said his job was, but she knew something about whatever he said his job was. Like, she just had to have, like, a more than cursory knowledge of it. And she was like asking deep questions, and like he like kind of just like failed the thing. And then the next like day, the nurse never came back to work, and they just like disappeared. It was just like, I don't know if that's witness protection. I don't know if that's them being a spy and covers blown of some kind. I don't know, but
you should do your research as a spy. I'm sorry, if you're gonna be in a certain field. So I think that's interesting, like, because I have a photography background. I was like, photography, that would be a good spy, because photographers were allowed to get into Cuba before other places were. You can get into specific events. You're known for carrying lots of weird equipment.
Yeah.
You know, you can get passes on certain things. Exactly. So, like, I think if there was a good field to be in for a spy, a photographer would be a good one.
Yeah,
because there are definitely people I know that have gotten to go into places that are more exclusive than others, and they don't even question you. Like, if you have a camera on your neck, like, you can go, like, backstage, other places, like, things like that. Like, so it is very interesting. If somebody had, like, some James Bondy kind of stuff to come out of the cameras.
Yeah, completely.
You know. I don't think I could be a spy, though.
Oh, it seems like a lot. It's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if that would be worth it.
No. No, I like don't want to put my life in... I just being a woman in the world, I put my life in peril enough. Just having, like, public opinions. I don't need to, like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't need to, like, up that danger element anymore.
I'd like to play one on a movie or a TV show. That would be fun.
I want to be, like, the blood spatter girl on a crime, a procedural.
Oh, yeah?
I want to be, like, the funky girl in, like, the basement that has, like, a bunch of bodies, and she's the comic relief. And she's just like, oh, but wow, what about this weird thing that I found? And then she always cracks the case, and you never think it's her. She's like goofy, but you underestimate her. That's what I want to be. I always love those girls in shows, and I'm like, man, yeah, that's my wheelhouse right there. Yeah, just like, that's it. Just want to like wear Doc Martens and like work in a morgue and get paid for it as an actor.
Are you an actor too?
If people ask me to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I go out for some auditions, sometimes. I don't, I actually just got new headshots done with, like, a wig where I, like, look like I'm, like, the normal version of myself. Because the purple hair kind of, like, turns off some casting directors. They're like, I don't know what to do with this. And it's like, here's the thing, it's 2016. A lot of people dye their hair, so I could literally be anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter that much.
I mean, don't they also look for that, like, alt look or something sometimes? Like
They do, but here's the problem. Like, they go from 0 to 60 to that stuff. Like, I'm not covered in tattoos.
Oh, so, and you don't have, like, facial piercings or anything. I see.
Yeah, so they're just like, so you're... I'm like, I don't know, I'm kind of just, like, an arty person that, like, likes, like, hair purple. Like, it's not a big...
Not a big deal?
Yeah, I'm like, do you not walk down the street and see lots of people with their hair colored? Like, that's becoming more and more the thing. It's fun.
Yeah.
But I just got some done with, like, a wig, like an auburn wig, which is funny because, like, those are, like, my mom shots. And her name, I call her Brenda. Like, and she's got, like, a whole backstory. She's, like, been divorced once and, you know, just got remarried, and it's, like, a marriage of convenience because she didn't want to work at the Lincoln Town Car dealership anymore. And her stepdaughter Brandie hates her. Brenda's got a whole thing going on. She loves her vino. She loves the Good Wife. She's got, like, she's super basic. She's it's a really fun way to get it out.
It's funny. I have a mom character too that's like a bad mom, and I've got a wig for her too, and her name's Margot.
That's awesome.
And like she's got a daughter named Tangerine, and she's like she's like a mom who thinks that she knows how to parent, and so she like has a fake vlog to tell people about how to raise their kids. And she like starts out with like decent advice, but then it goes to a fucked up place.
Yeah, of course. That's awesome.
But yeah, that's funny that we all have like different mom characters.
Oh yeah, I definitely like channel that pretty hard. I'm just like, I don't know, it's Brenda. It's not me, it's Brenda. Brenda's going out for this, I don't know, audition.
I also love when people like write in screenplays or scripts, it's like the same like initials of their name, and it's like, oh, it's not meant to be you? No?
Yeah, exactly.
like Rebecca Bloom's, Rebecca Bloom is like Rachel... Rachel Bloom is like Rebecca Bush or something in her in her show. It's like,
yep. I don't think we missed that. We didn't. We saw it.
So, when did you start comedy? Was that in Maryland or was that
Los Angeles? Well, yeah, I went to film school in Philadelphia mostly because I wanted to do like comedy writing, and I wanted to like write sketches. Like that was kind of what I really wanted to do. And I just didn't really see stand-up as, like, a path when I was younger, because, like, the stand-ups that were on TV when I was a kid in Maryland were, I don't know, the 90s comedy scene was, like, very masculine, very bro-y, and I just, like, had no desire to make those people my coworkers, kind of, and then I went to school for writing sketches, because the comedy that inspired me the most growing up was, like, watching like SNL and like Mad TV and like more ensemble pieces.
Yeah.
So I went to school for that, and then I moved out to LA because it was either LA or New York is kind of like what I thought I needed to do. And I had my senior year, I took sketch classes at UCB in New York, and I like New York. I never wanted to live there though. I just never vibed with it, right? But I had gone out to LA for like a 6-month internship, and really kind of like fell in love with the city a lot, and was like, all right, cool, I can do this. Let's pull off the Band-Aid and give it a shot for real now. And started taking classes at the UCB out there, and then I would go to like stand-up shows at the UCB, and like just fell in love with like alt stand-up, which is, you know, such a weird loaded title in so many ways, but like seeing like Maria Bamford and like Eddie Pepitone and like Paul F. Tompkins and like Jimmy Pardo, like I could see them all the time, and like I was like, oh, these are my people. Yeah, because like I had fun in like my sketch and improv classes, but I never really like, something just wasn't fitting right. there was something that I was like, I'm missing something here. And I also, like, realized I was, like, meaner, well, not even meaner, just, like, roastier than a lot of the other people in my classes wanted to be, where, like, I just always wanted to, like, if we were, like, tagging characters, I would always go darker than, like, everybody else in my sketch classes were going. And, like, the couple of, like, improv parties I went to, I was like, I can't, this is exhausting. And that's hashtag not all improvisers. I don't want to, like...
Hashtag not all improvisers.
Yeah, I don't want to, like, throw them under the bus, but the ones that I met, I was like, I don't know about this. And then I started going to open mics in LA and, like, immediately clicked with, like... I'm very lucky because, like, when I started, there was a group of, like, probably like 10 or 12 of us that all kind of started within 6 months of each other, and we, like, all kind of approached comedy from a very similar work ethic of, like, all right, we're going to work really hard, run our own mics, run our own shows, and support each other and, like, build this scene back up. Because at that time, like, LA didn't really have...
a stand-up scene?
Yeah, I mean, like, there was, like, people would hang out at the clubs, but it was very disjointed. People weren't really... It wasn't really a community of any kind. The alt scene had kind of really dried up in a lot of ways, and everybody was just very competitive and, like, working towards their, like, they're working on, like, their late night sets versus, like, really kind of, like, finding their voices and seeing what their comedy was capable of, like, and not really caring about TV. So, I mean, you know, now we've done it long enough that we're all just like, just put us on TV. But like, you know, for those first couple of years, like, you know, it's like me, Barbara Gray, Alan Strickland-Williams, Dave Ross, Jake Weissman, like Matt Engebretson, like we all kind of started together, and like we're very, like, worked our asses off and kind of supported each other and kind of rebuilt this scene in LA.
That's good to know. Like, I think a lot of the perception, and I'm not saying it's true, but a lot of the perception, at least from Chicago, is that LA is, like, full of a bunch of people just working on their, like, 10 minutes, and, like, they're not
anymore.
And I know it's not that way anymore, but I think that is a perception that should be addressed, because I feel like a lot of people, and I will say, when I've been out to LA a couple times, and I have seen those occasional actresses that are trying to be funny but have no comic timing or no real jokes or anything, and they're just too gorgeous to be on stage.
Oh, completely. And, like, those will always exist to some degree, but, like, the people that actually care about comedy in LA, like, don't take them seriously, and those people fizzle out. I mean, there's always going to be bringers, so those people are always going to be able to do whatever they want, you know, to that degree, but, like, they don't get booked on real shows. They don't. The actual, like, you know, heart of the LA comedy scene just doesn't recognize any of that stuff. Yeah. You know, it's like there's a lot of high concept shows that happen out there. Like, people are always pushing themselves in different ways. There's a ton, like, I mean, right now, post-election, there's a ton of, like charity shows that are getting put up. Like, everybody is, like, really, we have a lot of really smart, passionate activist comics, too. So,
that's
like
great.
It's a good scene. Because I think there's so many comics, and I think, you know, once you've been doing it a little bit out there, you kind of realize, like, okay, there is room for me in this industry. Like, there aren't just, like, 5 spots at the top that we're all working towards. Like, the industry is vast, and you see how many ways people can make money in different ways, that you're kind of like, all right, I don't want to be number one because that's feeding my ego, and if I feed my ego, I'm going to become a bad comic. Like, it's just not worth it to do that. I'm going to work on being as interesting and well-rounded and push myself as much as possible to work towards being undeniable, and then whatever comes will come. I don't have control of that. What I do have control of is pushing myself in every way possible to see what my strengths and weaknesses really are, and I'd work on those.
That's really good. And when you said undeniable, that makes me think of Jamie Flam's podcast. What Gatekeepers, at the end, he always says, like, be undeniable, like, you know, work on your craft endlessly, and, like, be cool as fuck, and, like...
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And that's a really cool thing. So you haven't got anywhere outside of LA, like, in terms of living?
No, I've lived in Maryland, college in Philly, and then Los Angeles. I've been out there for just about 10 years. But the last 2 years, I travel like 4 to 5 months out of the year doing shows.
Oh, that's great.
So, you know, yeah, LA's like a good place to be based. It's also important to, like, leave. It's definitely important to leave.
I think it's also interesting because I talked to you don't do clubs, but you still get work 4 to 5 times out of the year. I want to talk about that a little bit because I think a lot of comics don't realize that, yes, there is money in an alt scene, and there are ways where you can make a living as a comic if you're not a club comic. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize or don't know.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, like, I, kind of jokingly call it, like, the Kyle Kinane model, where, like, Kyle really kind of pioneered a lot of that stuff, where he wasn't getting work in clubs, and he was like, well, I'm just going to start reaching into rock venues and things like that, and smaller ones like that, that I play a lot of small rock venues, and, the back rooms of bars that are kind of, like, set up for music and stuff like that, and you have more freedom to kind of do whatever you want, book whoever you want for that kind of thing. And I kind of, like, over the last, let's say, I've done comedy for about 9 years. I think I got my first festival about 3 years in, somewhere like that. And when you go to festivals and stuff, it's kind of cool because you meet people that are the best of the best in other cities. So that kind of becomes, like, the national network that you start putting together, where it's like, okay, cool. These are the people, these are my friends that I know that live in Atlanta or live in Boston or live in Austin, and, like, when I want to start putting, like, a run of things together, that's who I'm going to talk to see who I should, what are the best shows there, what kind of door deals can I get, and you kind of just start building the network from there. Like, I have, like, a black book of, like, different cities and different states that I have, like, I write down everybody that I meet in them and, like, what they do and
how you met them.
Yeah, and how I met them, and, like, I'm like, all right, cool, this is how the network comes together. And it really, planning those tours is like it feels like you're planning a
wedding.
Well, yeah, a wedding and a war.
A wedding and a war.
All at once. So, like, I have, like, a giant map in my, like, office that I just, like, put, just figure out, okay, cool, these are, like, the anchor shows that I know do really well, so these I definitely need to hit. What can I do in between to get there?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, like, having the podcast has been great because it's kind of, like, been building up that fan base too, so people come out to see me from that, not a ton, but, working on it. There's at least a couple people in every city, which is kind of nice. And then the shows I usually do are produced by one of those local comics or a local comic, and, like, they kind of
help
act as, like, the promoter and, like, the help, and, like, that's been really cool. So, I mean, I don't,
so you can make a living, doing comedy traveling, and you don't have to do clubs. You just have to be willing to put in all the work to build that network. And I think that's another thing. I think network, at least in Chicago, is, like, it's considered a dirty word in comedy, and it's like, it's
the reality of it, though.
I know, it's like people don't want to say that, and people tend to think that I don't know, I think that that's an interesting thing because there is no real industry in Chicago. It's, I mean, it might be changing a little bit. There's one CISO comedy show that's filming here right now, so the first, because there's a ton of shows being filmed here, but they're all dramas. So this CISO show, Shrink, that just filmed here, that is the first comedy thing that's been filmed in Chicago in a long time.
Nice.
And so that might be changing industry a little bit, but still people tend to think, like, networking, that's bullshit. Like, they tend to, like, look down on it. But it's at the same time when I go to these other cities like LA and New York, like, people do that because that's how you get jobs.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like there's a way to network and be genuine at it. I mean, it's like if you're, like, an asshole but you, like, are some sort of a gatekeeper, I'm not gonna talk. Like, I'll be polite to you, but I'm not going to put in time if I think that you're a bad person. Or, like, I know a lot of shitty comics that are, like, bad people that I'm like, you know what? If I, like, sucked it up and was nice to you, I would probably be able to open for you or something. But, like, I'm just not interested in, like, working with morally reprehensible people. And, like, or you whatever it is, where it's like, you can network and still be genuine, and that's not you being a sellout. That's you being like, hey, we're all working towards, like, a great end goal. Like, let's actually work on this together. Like, there's a good way to network and a bad way to network. Like, I'm not, like, ladder climbing, and it doesn't matter who I'm, passing or leaving behind or anything like that. It's like, no, it's like, it all serves to make comedy better.
Yeah.
Like, there's, anybody that's a problem with that is not a real comic, and frankly, you should just stop wasting everybody's time. Like, honestly.
I mean, like, I think it's just, like, the phrasing is part of it. Like, I remember the first time I think I met you was, like, Arguments and Grievances, like, a year ago or something, and I hadn't been to LA yet, and I was saying I'm interested, I want to learn about that. What it was like, and I was just like, it's just about actually, but I wasn't just asking you to be like, oh, because in however long I'm going to ask a favor. It's not that. It's just, like, getting to know you as a person.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, that's what it is. It's like, meet people and I'm nice to them because of what they might give me. I just meet people and because I'm genuinely interested in other aspects of the work, and then it's like, oh man, well that's interesting that you do this or whatever. Like, you know, if I have something that I think I can genuinely offer of worth to somebody that might, you know, enhance them in some small way, or it might be interesting for them to like work on something with me, then it's like, all right, yeah, then we can talk about it. But like, you know, there's a difference between like collaborating and like blatantly using people to just step up to the next level. Like those are two completely different things.
And I think people that do that like are people that don't get very far.
No, I think you can, a lot of people fizzle out very quickly with that kind of thinking. You know, I mean, like
or the goal is being like, if somebody has the goal like I want to be famous, that shouldn't be the goal, because I feel like then you're working towards things that are, you know, I think the goal should be, hey, I want to be a better comic, or hey, I want to impact people in this way, or create something unique.
And here's the thing, if you want to be famous, don't be a comedian, because comedians aren't famous. Even the most famous comics, like Amy Schumer, a lot of people don't know who Amy Schumer is.
Seriously?
Yeah, people don't know who the hell she is. Like, people don't know who Kyle Kinane is. People don't know who Maria Bamford is.
They know who Jimmy Fallon is.
Yeah.
and he's not.
Exactly. But even if like with a lot of people, honestly, if you were to put like Jimmy Fallon, Colbert, and Jimmy Kimmel in a lineup together, and you were like, hey, pick who's who, there's a lot of people in the middle of the country that would be like, I don't know which one Jimmy Fallon is.
And there are two of them named Jimmy, so it'd be, even if it was first names, they might fuck it up.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you know, there's not... If you want to be famous, don't be a comedian. Like, comedians aren't famous.
Yeah.
You know, like, Bill Burr's... Louis C.K. isn't even famous.
But that's what I kind of like about it, is if it did get to the point where there is a certain level of fame, I feel like you could still live your life and be all right. Like,
oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why I like it, because it's like, there's no way... You're never going to be like your Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, he's so hot.
He's gorgeous. He's gorgeous.
Not just hot, but he's also very funny.
Oh, yeah,
And I... You know, Andy, his role was originally supposed to be just like a 2-episode thing, and they liked him so much that they wrote him in.
Around, yeah.
And I love that, you know?
Yeah, he's awesome. It's really funny.
But yeah, so what, let's see, hold on one second. So you also date a comedian, right?
I do. I've been dating a comedian for about just over 5 years, 5.5 years now.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's good.
So did you start together?
We met in LA, I used to be a travel coordinator on reality shows. That was like one of my first jobs in LA.
So are they all industry jobs too?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them. Like, I do like some freelance bookkeeping here and there now, but like I was a PA and a coordinator and like a travel coordinator for a long time. The first couple of years before, you know, I was kind of getting myself grounded in LA. And then I worked in like automotive marketing for like 5 years, which was hilarious, but I was like a social media person. It was such a weird job. But for that travel coordinating gig, we did a show called Great American Road Trip, where we did like 30 cities along Route 66 with like 5 families in Winnebagos competing. And we started in Chicago, and I had started...
So it starts in Chicago.
Right at Wrigley. Like the first challenge was on Wrigley Field, which is cool. And I don't know what I do. I was on that entire tour. Like, I basically would drive half a day ahead of everybody and like check everybody into hotels. But since we were starting in Chicago, we were here for a couple of days, and I had started comedy maybe like a year before or 6 months before. It was still pretty new, and I was like, I've got one night off. I'm going in the city. I'm doing an open mic. Hell yeah! So I like went to the Shubas. I MySpaced James Fritz. Because he was a host of Shubas. I found that online. I was Googling like crazy trying to find some mic, and I MySpaced Fritz just to be like, hey, I'm coming in. I'm an LA comic. Like, if I come in, like, can I definitely do a set? Like, I was staying out by Midway, so I had to take like 2 trains and a bus or some shit to get there.
Oh wow, and that's pretty far from Shubas.
Yeah, I know, definitely. And it's funny because I was just like, I don't know. I'm just like going into the city. And open mic was great. I met Fritz that night. There's a couple other comics I met that night that were really fun. But then I met Brendan, my boyfriend, that night. And I was like talking to a bunch of comics that like afterwards, and waiting for my bus. And Brendan was like, "What? Where are you staying?" I was like, "My Midway." And he was like, "Jesus, you're about to do something like kind of dangerous right now. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like,
yeah, because
from LA. It's like going through not a great part of Chicago, I guess.
Yeah, it's not that great. I mean, well, the train usually stops running at 2 anyways, but still, like, it's, I mean, it can be a little, you know.
Yeah, and he was just like, you're not, like, okay, you're not from here, you're not, okay, you're fine. And he was like, look, let me give you my phone number if anything happens. Like, I want you to have somebody to, like, be able to text in the city. And I was like, thank you, I appreciate that. So, like, I gave him my number, too, to be like, hey, here's, you know, I wrote it down on a piece of paper. And I was like, here's me, you know, just so you have it, like, whatever. And I texted him when I got back to my hotel and was like, hey, I made it, and smarter than you think. And didn't think anything of it. And then, like, 6 months later, I was meeting up with a bunch of Chicago comics, because I just know a lot of them in LA, because they move out, and you're friends with them or whatever. And a bunch of them, they used to do this thing where they would have ice cream socials at a farmer's market, which was day drinking. But they just call it ice cream socials. So I, like, went to go hang out with them, and Brendan was there. And I was like, oh, hey, this is creepy. I still have your number on my phone. So I was, like, pulling it up just to be like, hey, look what a creep I am. And he pulled the piece of paper that I still had I had written my phone number on out of his wallet. And he was like, yeah, I've got your number too. And I was like, how many numbers you got in your wallet? And he was like, I have one number in my wallet. Don't worry about it.
Oh.
And, like, it was like, okay, guy, like, smoothest thing he's ever done in his life. Before or since, he wasted it on one moment.
But it was the right moment.
Oh, it was definitely the right moment. It was great. And, like, you know, so we kind of just were, like, goofing off, like, hanging out with everybody. He was leaving the next day, so, like, we became Facebook friends and would just kind of start chatting. And
I like the progression, the MySpace, then the Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, it was, like, right when those two were going back and forth. Yeah, and then, like, I came out here. I knew Beth was moving to LA soon, and I, like, was friends with her and was like, oh, I'm gonna come out and, like, hang out in Chicago with you and do some shows and stuff. So I came out here for a week and, like, got, like, lunch with Brendan once or twice, and just kind of, like, we hung out a little bit here. And then a year, I don't even remember the timeline, but then I got into Bridgetown for the first time, and he got into Bridgetown in Portland. And
it's a great fest.
Yeah, awesome festival. And he was, you know, the day that we got there, we were, like, chatting more and more. Like, we started, like, texting. And then he was like, you know, we got there and he was like, hey, I want to take you on a date on Sunday. Is that cool? And I was like, yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, that sounds, yes, thank you. Like, and then he was moving to LA 3 weeks later.
And you didn't know that?
Yeah, he told me in Portland. He's moving to LA in 3 weeks. 3 weeks later, and he, like, the day that he moved to LA, he, like, called me and was like, hey, so what are you doing for dinner tonight? And just, like, every step of the way, he's never made me feel crazy. I've never wondered where a text, but, like, who the fuck he was with. I've never had that. Like, it's from the beginning. He's just been a straight shooting. And
I will say, coming from the Midwest, most Midwest guys are chicken as shit.
Yeah.
They, like, I go to LA and New York, and I'm like, guys are so direct. Because in the Midwest, they are not. So for a guy coming from the Midwest to be that direct, like, good for him, because they're not like that here. Like, exactly. No one will ever buy you a drink, no matter, like, how nice you look. Like, no one will buy you a drink in Chicago.
Oh, that's infuriating. Oh my god.
Well, but then it makes me feel so good, because I go to LA and I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, I didn't even try that hard. I'm like, because I was like, I thought that it would be very different, but, like, people are so much more aggressive in LA and New York, and I'm like, all right, you know, I'll feel this, but, like, no, Chicago people are very shy, or very, like,
so funny.
Well, I mean, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just not their type. Maybe when I go out, like, I don't look like the sweet, like, girl they bring home. I don't know, like.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I totally get it. It's so funny.
One time on my Tinder or something, I had a picture of me and two of my girlfriends, and one of my guy friends was like, so a comic, he was like swiping through, he's like, it looks like you're going out and the other two girls are going to church. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe that makes sense.
Okay, well, thanks. It's like, but then it's like, so you want to go to church?
Yeah, no, okay. I don't. Like, but he said, like, I look like the bad influence, and I was like, okay, maybe, but
I mean, for Tinder that might work out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really check it anymore. Like, I've been very lazy about it. Yeah. No, I just don't have time right now to deal with all that.
And that's fine, you know, and great. I mean, like, I was single for, like, I don't know, the first, when did we start dating? We dating for 5.5 years. I was single for the first, like... 4 years that I was doing comedy. And I'm so thankful that I was.
Yeah, because I don't have time to... Like, no. I don't want to sit at home and watch movies. I want to go out.
Yeah. Also, like, you don't get to influence my voice, you know? Like, I'm figuring shit out. Like, I don't... You know, I think it's very... and also, you just don't have time for other people like that, you know? It's like, I think it's sometimes very selfless to realize when you need to be selfish for yourself.
I like that.
Yeah, like, I think it's like, I don't want to waste your time because I know that this needs to be about me for a while, you know?
Well, my excuse lately has been I think I'm going to move next fall, and so it's like, there are people that maybe I could have gotten closer to, and I'm like, hey, I'm probably going to move, so, like, this can be whatever it is, but, like... You know, like, basically, then, like, subtext, don't fall in love with me.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, no, I mean, exactly. It's important to be, like, upfront about that stuff, too.
Yeah. But, I don't know. But so you haven't had any... I guess the thing is with comics, it's like, do you ever feel, like... I guess your comedy's probably very different.
Yeah, we're both really different and, like, kind of have different, like... We're not, like, in direct competition in any way, and, he's always been, like, such a big supporter of what I do, and it's, like, he's really great about being, like, what you're doing is important. Like, I'm another straight white dude. Like, there's whatever I'm gonna say, other people are gonna say it, so that's fine. But, like, you know, he's just a really evolved, really great guy that had a lot of, like, strong women in his life, and he's just a really good person.
God.
Yeah.
You're very lucky.
Oh, yeah, and believe me, I know how lucky I am. I every time when I do get frustrated, I'm just like, fuck this. Because I'm also, like, I'm a wild pony that likes to run free sometimes. So I, like, go on tour for, like, 2 months at a time.
Yeah, and you need to have that, you know, someone that's okay with that and not...
Completely. Yeah. And he totally is. And then it's, like, when I talk to, like, my single girlfriends who are always, like, on Tinder and they tell me about their dates and stuff, and I'm just like, oh, fuck, I hate so many people just in general anyway. Like, I have no patience for dating.
Yeah. No, me too. It's, like...
Yeah.
I think about it, I'm like, oh gosh, could I sit in a room with you for an hour and not hate it? Because, like, what I hate is when regular guys, like, non-comics, like, they tell you this long story and they think it's funny, and it is the most boring story you've ever heard.
It's so rough. Or, like, they tell you about, like, I've driven for Lyft off and on, too, like, with comedy, because you just gotta fill in the gaps sometimes, and, whenever a lot of dudes find out that you're a comic, like, what they want to do is just tell you about what they know about comedy, as opposed to, like, asking you as a professional.
Oh, yeah, they want to talk to you.
Yeah, and it's, like, the most maddening thing. And, like, it's funny because, like, lifting sometimes feels like dating people that you're uninterested in, because you're just like, yeah, all right, tell me more. Yeah, that's fine, cool. Oh, God. I can't wait till you're gone. It's been interesting just to be like, oh, man, I really don't have patience for as many people as I thought I did. I should think I was so much nicer than I actually am.
That's good. Yeah. And I could be wrong about this, but I think I read an article like a year ago or something. Like, you live in a off.
A mobile home.
Yeah, like off the grid, not off the grid, but
not off the grid. Well, so it's
it was in a magazine or something, right?
Yeah. Curbed wrote it up. If you just Google Los Angeles mobile home Curbed, it'll come up. But we live in, like, a trailer. It's like a trailer park. It's in LA. It's just, like, in it's in, like, a town called Eagle Rock, which is, like, in LA, but, like, kind of northeast LA. So there's a little bit more space up there. But we live in, like, a 30-person trailer park. And it's not like a
it's not a white trash trailer park. It's like a nice.
It's really nice. Like, everybody that lives there is, like, it's actually gentrifying, which is hilarious because it's a lot of, like,
a trailer park is gentrifying.
It really is, because the thing is, like, I live so much cheaper than all of my friends in LA. Like, my rent is like $250 a month.
Wait, what?
I pay $250 a month, and I'm a homeowner in Los Angeles.
Wait. What?
Yeah, so we own the house. I'll walk you through all the numbers.
Okay, because I'm like, wait, what? Because that is, like, way cheaper. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So we bought the house. Brandie and I own it for $45,000.
Okay.
I used to have a pretty awesome job, so we paid most of it up front, which is great. So we have a mortgage that's, like, really nothing. Honestly, it's like $100 a month or whatever. But so when you own a house, but you rent the land from a trailer park.
Okay.
And our lot rent is $900 a month, but that includes all of our utilities.
Okay.
And so it's Brendan and I, and then we have we rent out our front room to comics sometimes. Who like a guy Sean Keenan's living there right now. Really funny comic from San Francisco, and he pays us like $500 a month for that, and then we each pay like $250 each.
Oh wow, that's not bad at all. So you have multiple rooms too. So that's nice.
It's a 2-bed, 2-bath.
Nice.
With like central air. We have a washer dryer. Like it's like 1,050 square feet.
That's
like
wow.
Our house is sick. And our house, it was only built in 2006. So our house is only 10 years old. It's like a brand new house.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's really cool. And
like,
it's it's not like an Airstream. It's like a manufactured house. So it's like the houses that you see with like the wide load signs in the back of them. Like it's a really cool place.
Wow. So but can your house move or no?
If we wanted to, we could. Like it's right now it's on like it's not up on blocks, but it's like all attached to the ground, but we could take off the skirt around it, put wheels back on it, and then move it.
Oh wow.
So my 10-year plan is that I, hopefully get some big stuff and I'm able to like afford like a house in LA. I move my trailer up to Big Bear, which is like a mountain town that's like an hour and a half from Los Angeles, and I have like a writing retreat.
Oh, that's great.
That's my or like if that doesn't work out, it like goes in the backyard and we have like a full on fuck you guest house, which is really cool.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, like that's kind of like I'm thinking it's like, okay, cool, we like have a house that like we can move wherever we want, which is huge.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I love it. And like our neighborhood's awesome. It's like there's our trailer park, and then everything outside of our trailer park are all these like $1 million homes.
Oh my god.
So it's hilarious because we have I pay the cheapest rent of anybody I know in Los Angeles. Like, I have friends that live in the neighborhood and they rent for like $1,800 or $1,900 a month, like for like 2 people, and it's like, all right, I live for a fraction of that. I own a house, and yeah, like I have a Trader Joe's, a Sprouts, and I have like so many grocery stores nearby. It's
That's
like
so crazy.
And there's all these like fancy restaurants and stuff. Like it's like great. It's
so wait, did you guys just come up with this idea before like other people had thought of it? Like, because I have a friend that lives in a van right now.
Yeah,
she's actually going to the West Coast now, coming up soon. She found this van. She got it in Portland that like was like souped up to like live in. It's got like a nice bed and like other things. Awesome. And she wanted to like travel and do comedy, and so not be tied down to a lease and things like that. And so like I feel like these like living things are happening more.
Absolutely. Well, I think there's I wanted to live in that part of town. I love Eagle Rock a lot. And
where's that near? Is that like near Echo Park or like?
Yeah, it's like just north of Echo Park, right next to Highland Park. It's in LA. It's like it's like in the Northeast. It's just it's like literally right next to Highland Park and Echo Park and Silver Lake are all right there.
Gotcha.
And like Atwater Village, like all of those are like the cool hip, like that's where it's a cool spot. It was voted like one of the top 10 neighborhoods in the country like a couple years ago, which is kind of cool.
That's great.
Yeah, and I lived there for no money. But I wanted to live over there, so I was like driving around and I like found this trailer park and was like, this is interesting. What's this about? And there was a house that had just gone on the market, and I was like, we're gonna need to see this. And then I brought Brendan over because at first he was like, you want to what? You want what? You want to live in a trailer park? And I was like, come take a look. Yeah. And then we like when we first walked in, we were like, oh shit, this is way nicer than I even thought it was gonna be, because it's huge, it's great, and it's all of our neighbors in the park are really cool, and like there's a lot of young couples, and there's like a couple older people that still live there, but like they're really sweet, and like they're awesome. Like I love everything about it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome that you found a good way to make LA work for you. Definitely. In a cool way, because it's not that much more expensive than Chicago from what I've seen.
No.
But
yeah, I mean, and I think it's interesting because it's like people our age are like I'm 32. I don't know how old you are, but like people like that are in their like 20s, 30s, like have seen how many of our parents are like trapped in houses that they can't afford.
Oh yeah.
Or like the way that like their American dream played out was more focused on like material stuff instead of like experience. And I just know so many. I know so many people that are like my age in a lot of different fields that are kind of just like, I don't want to be tied down by something big. Well, it's important for me to like be able to like live within my means and not be making money to afford a lifestyle that I can't afford.
That's a good point. I feel like there is a kind of a theme with this generation of like not wanting to be tied down, not just in like housing or jobs. Like I know people that don't want to be tied down for jobs too long, and not in relationships. I feel like it's an overall like theme for our generation. Like we don't want to be like committed to anything for like life. Like I feel like that's overall how we feel, because maybe it's because of the shopping cart mentality. Maybe there's something always better out there, or the fact that we all kind of got screwed in jobs, or like what it was. But like this generation is very much like, hey, I don't want to be stuck.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're not going to trap me because we've all seen the traps and lies that we were raised in to some degree, I mean, so many people were promised, like, oh, we're going to go to college, and then, you're
going to get a job right out of college.
Immediately. And it's like, okay, well, that's a monstrous lie to tell a whole generation of people. And then also blame them for it, too.
Yeah. And not everybody grows up with the idea that, yes, your parents lie to you.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, I also, like, come from the land of spies, so I've always been like, yeah, man, they're always lying.
Everyone's always lying. What are you talking about?
Exactly. I'm so close to being a conspiracy theory nut all the time. I'm just like, no, don't do it. But what if?
We shouldn't even bring up the Mandela effect then.
Yeah. Exactly.
Bernstein Bears. I seriously spent like a whole afternoon like looking up that shit. I was like, what?
Fascinating to me. Like it's so funny because this election just like normalized so many conspiracy theories. And I was just talking with Barbara and Tess, the girls I do Lady to Lady with, and like they don't know any, and they don't really follow any of that stuff. And like I kind of had to be like, do you not know who Alex Jones is? And they were like, who the hell are you talking about? And I was like, oh, we're gonna go down a wormhole. You need to see what this crazy motherfucker thinks. You need, and because people like listen to him as fact, and it's like you need to like realize that like what Sandy Hook truthers were. Tess like didn't know what Sandy Hook truthers were, and she was like, people think that was fake. I was like, yeah, people think there's like fake. Yeah, they were actors. They're like child actors hired to like stage a massacre. Like, yeah,
like they're gonna put that on their resume. Like what?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like a credit. People are going like it's insane. But I just like love. I love knowing what depths of crazy people are willing to go into. It's like that's like my like US Weekly. I'm just like, okay, what do you believe?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more about that because that's insane.
So what's your favorite conspiracy theory?
That the president's a lizard? I mean, like, lizard people are pretty fun. Just to be like, what? You think there's like a subterranean lizard race of people that like has human suits and they're the ones that are actually running the country? Like that one's pretty fun.
See, I really wish like some things were real, like that, like wizards are real or something. I see you've got your Harry Potter thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm a Slytherin. No big deal. Just like to let my house be known.
Yeah.
I'm a good Slytherin though. I'm like one of the good ones. It's fine.
No, I saw that movie last night.
Oh yeah, was it good?
Okay, well, here's the thing. I love the world that they built, and I love the creatures that they create and everything. And I love Eddie Redmayne. He's so fucking likable. Yeah. But the characters, like the way they're, and this is maybe because I'm studying, like I'm trying to write pilots and you know that kind of thing. I'm paying a lot more attention to screenplays aspect. If Eddie Redmayne wasn't already as likable, I don't know if I would care about his character because we don't learn as much about him as I think. You know, as I think we should. Like in Harry's world, when we're introduced to Harry, we get to see his lifestyle. We're already on his side because he lives under a cupboard and he's got these awful relatives, and we don't. He's kind of more mysterious. There's not a ton of information about him being brought out, and maybe that's because she's preparing for future movies, or maybe because there is timeline stuff or what. But it's I feel like it didn't reveal as much about his character that I think, and I think because Eddie Redmayne's such a likable actor, it was easy to like him.
Got it.
And if it had been somebody else, like somebody we didn't know at all, I might not have cared about him.
Got it. Oh, that's interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally
and that's a weird analysis. I hope I don't like give you preconceived notions about it, but
no. I mean that makes total sense. It's like, you know, so much is based on like the charm of actors with certain roles. You can really hide a lot of bad writing through. I mean, not this is bad writing, but like I'm thinking of other examples where I'm like, oh yeah.
But but the world they create is so awesome, you know, like the creating the magical world in the United States and all of that. I think that is really awesome, and they do a really good job with the animals are really great.
Nice.
But I think I felt myself caring more about the animals than the people.
Yeah.
But again, like, it's one of those things, like, I want to read the screenplay now again and, like, just see, but and they do, like, give little, like, you know, breadcrumbs to, like, what, oh wait, what, like, how are they all connected? But, like, I reread all the books, like, this summer after reading The Cursed Child, and I'm a very big and I've been to the Orlando thing and stuff.
Nice.
So
I love it. It's a great world. It's fun.
I don't know. I think it's also a nostalgia thing. I think a lot too about how much I like something based on nostalgia factor versus actual good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I feel like sometimes you'll watch back a movie like I really liked growing up Robin Hood Men in Tights. I don't know, it's a silly freaking movie, you know.
Definitely.
And like, you know, sometimes like looking back, you know, like if I had watched it 10 years later for the first time, would I have liked it that much?
Yeah, probably. I think there's like a period of your life where you're this like pop culture sponge, and like the stuff that you get in that time, you're always going to think fondly of. You know, I mean, I don't know if it's like that's kind of how we learn to process the world. That's kind of how we start to really figure out what we like and don't like in like a non-high stakes way. Mm-hmm. You know, like when you decide like which, you know, what your favorite TV shows and movies are when you're young, you're like, oh man, these are decisions that aren't me like, you know, fighting over food and fighting over, you know, that it's like the first superfluous opinions you get to really have as like a person, I think.
And now it's like, oh, what video games do you like?
Yeah, exactly. It's too many now.
Oh, man. It's, I'm so glad I don't have kids right now. I think it would be too scary. It'd be like...
It scares the hell out of me. I don't want kids because I honestly just don't want to deal with any of the... There's no way to do it right because we have no idea what the repercussions and anything is long term. And I just would rather have a dog that I know that I can't... Even if I do fuck up my dog somehow, like,
he'll still love you.
He'll still love me. He'll still love me. And he's not gonna, like, become some psychopath zombie, or be attacked in some way. Or, you know, people are just so cruel to each other. And we're, like, empathy is muscle, and I think we, like, have stopped emphasizing working it as much as a society because of how detached we can all be.
Well, yeah, because I think a lot of it does have to do with video games and violence we watch on TV, and I know that that's like an old thought, like, oh yeah, violence, you know, BS or whatever, but there's a difference between like cartoony like South Park, you know, versus when you're playing these video games that are so freaking realistic that like you look like you're in the trenches of the army and you're you know, you're like killing people and you see the blood and you get the blood on your eye shot or something like that kind of stuff. Like,
totally.
I think that there's a very big difference because when we were growing up it was like, oh yeah, South Park's violent, like, but that's, you know, but that's a very different level of...
Definitely. Well, and if you're only... If you're playing those video games, but then you have like family time and like you're being engaged with people in 3D, and like, you know, being forced to volunteer and like have extracurricular activities, so you're like being around people and knowing what a reality is. But if like that is all you do after school and like your reality is like 2-dimensional killing, like that's a problem. It's like if that's all you do, then you can see it intellectually as an escape, and I have less of a problem with that as long as you were actually like feeding other things in a healthy way. But if like so many people like they
spend 10 hours a day,
then that's all they're doing. So that is their reality. That is their life.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it. If you spend more of your day doing one thing than other things, and that's your reality.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, that's a... And there's addiction places that they're having, like in China and Japan, I believe, right now. And I think my fear about the whole video game, this virtual reality thing, is as they come to, like, sex robots and things like that it's really going to detach men from... understanding how to treat women in a respectable way and to how to behave in a relationship and treat us as people, because as they become more and more realistic, that is something that scares me of how that's going to warp and change society.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that it's horrifying. I really think that like the tech industry internationally needs to have like a set of like a Hippocratic oath like applied to it somehow, of just like you need to understand just because you can doesn't necessarily mean that we should all the time, and you need to be working towards doing no harm and really thinking about the long-term consequences of what this stuff means when you're making it. Like, yeah, we can build a robot that like looks just like a woman, and like maybe we're working towards sentience, but is that something that we really should be doing without really thinking about like the moral fallout and consequences of what that actually means for humanity?
Yeah.
You know, it's like that.
But the thing is, a lot of that is run by men, and you've got like places like China that have very few women, you know, and these men that are lonely and like all this, and it's like, oh, there is a market for that, but at the same time, it's like, is it worth it? But it's hard because, like I said, tech industries are mostly run by men, and it's not men that are exactly, I think, considered the long terms. They're like, oh wait, this is a really cool thing that a lot of guys are gonna buy. Let's make it and make a lot of money, and that's what they think.
Yeah, no, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's frustrating. I have friends that are pregnant or have young kids, and I'm just like, that's just a world of. I just don't know how you don't. This is tell you why I shouldn't be a parent. I just don't know how you aren't just like grieving for your child's future every single day. Because you don't know, like, the uncertain. I feel like the uncertainty of knowing about the life of somebody that I care so much about would just envelope me and paralyze me in some way. You know, it's like, man, especially it's like you can only be part of their life for so long, and so much is out of your control.
And I remember like my parents, like when I was first diagnosed with narcolepsy, like that was like a big deal. Like and I didn't like, I don't even think I realized it until I looked back later that it was like a big deal for them to realize, oh, this is something I have to deal with forever.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't even realize like the extent of how much that affected them too. And it's like, oh, like we wish we could change this, but we can't, you know?
Definitely.
And it's this weird thing, and you're right. It's and especially with everything now, like I definitely wouldn't want to bring a baby into the world in the next 4 years for sure. Like,
exactly.
You know,
it's like the gamble with that kid being any number of things that are being persecuted now. You know, I mean, the list is
Did you hear about the joke about how somebody was joking about, they made a joke that implied like killing Trump in a bar in Brooklyn, and then they got arrested, and they were questioned for 3 hours. They were let go without charges, but still the fact that someone was in a bar making like a simple joke, that terrifies me as a comic, because I'm like, what are we going to be allowed to say? What are we going to be allowed to do? And I think that is very scary.
Yeah, if people would fight for the First and the Fourth Amendment as much as they fight for the Second Amendment, we'd be in a much better place as a country.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, the right to free speech and the right to privacy are two inalienable rights. You know, like
But the privacy's already gone. You know, like.
Yeah, I mean that's the huge thing. And the privacy, we've let so much of it go because of fear. Like short term fear thinking. You know. Ugh.
Sorry, we're going on such a dark path here. Yeah, but
it's hard though, because that's just like where everyone's mind is at. I think right now is just like, what does comedy look like in this time? Like, I mean, I definitely feel like an added level of importance to my job, where I'm like, people in audiences, not necessarily even talking about it directly, but like, people want to come out and have a good time because the world is bad right now, so I need to bring it every time I'm on stage. You know, like there's an importance to what I do now.
So do you think it's more important to do something, like to say something about what's happening and share your point of view and make it funny, or to distract them from what's happening?
I think you can do both in a set. You know, I mean, I think I think you can do both. I mean, I think it's the Colbert episode that was the night after the election. I don't watch a ton of Colbert, although I'm going to start watching more of his show now, because I really like what he's been doing since the election. Like, he's taken the gloves off and he's just really going after Trump really hard, which is
important.
Especially important considering what a fucking coward Jimmy Fallon is. Like, I'll say it everywhere. Like, he normalized that guy, brought him on a show, he, like, ruffled his hair. I mean, like, NBC is complicit in a fascist taking the White House, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You know, it's like having him host SNL and, like, having him on Fallon and being so cute about it. I mean, it's disgusting. But Colbert said something that I've kind of been thinking of a lot and ruminating on, where he said that the physical act of laughing means that you cannot be afraid in that moment, because you are announcing your presence and saying that you are joyful. Oh. Like, that's what laughter is. It's you being like, I defy you to be afraid when you're laughing. Like, if your body is laughing, you're making your presence known that you're having a good time. And like, I just kind of been thinking about that a lot since I heard it, of just like, well, that's my job, is to make people laugh and make people feel joyful in the face of fear, you know. So whether that is by a silly goofy jokes, or if that is by me really like speaking truth to power in a funny way, I mean, I am very lucky that I live in a country at a time when you think about the history of stand-up and how long people have actually been able to do this. It's such a small fraction of the human existence, and especially for women, you know, where it's like, I want to be funny above all, but I definitely want to like tackle important stuff through my jokes as much as possible too, just because I feel like that's just where I need to be. But luckily there's so many other people that can be doing the same stuff but talking about different things. So, you know, I think we have a very important job. It's not the most important job, obviously, but I think it's very important.
I do, and I think that there's a lot of, I say this a lot on my podcast, I think that comedy is probably one of the best ways to create social change. Yeah. Because people aren't afraid when they're listening to it. They're not defensive. They're laughing at it, and they're like, wait, hold. And then after they laugh, then they think about it, and they're like, wait, that's making a good point.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I mean, like, I do small indie rooms all over the country. Like, I mean, I've done a lot of shows in front of people that I know if we were to get into a thing on Facebook, we would vehemently disagree with each other. But because they come to my show and they think it's funny, and they're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, I hadn't thought about it that way. Oh, that was funny. Like, here's a liberal that I like. Like, it's, you know, it's breaking down those barriers and playing in the shades of gray. And I think that's where comedy is very important, you know. I mean, we're living in a weird time, but I'm like glad to be doing what I do where I do it.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that kind of ties into my final question as we wind down the podcast. We talked about dreams a little bit earlier. Like, what are your dreams or your aspirations for the future for yourself?
I mean, I have a couple of like TV projects that I really want to get made. Basically, like, I would love to be able to get a couple of major credits and then be able to tour on them. Like, and not necessarily even do clubs. Like, I love doing big music venues and stuff like that. Like, being able to continue that, but with a little bit more financial security, would be huge. You know, I mean, I don't need to be the star of anything. One of the shows I'm working on isn't even me. Like, I don't even know if I'm in it. Like, I might be because my manager wants me to write myself into it. But it's like, I also don't care. I'm more interested in telling the story, and I think it's an important thing to get out. But just kind of being a financially viable storyteller, I think, is mostly what I want to be working towards. Like, you know, creating shows that people like and give voices to people that haven't necessarily had them before. You know, and then hopefully being able to tour and do stand up off of that. You know, I mean, I love doing stand up. You know, I love being on the road like 4 months out of the year. It's great. You know, Lady to Lady, my podcast, is like doing really well, and like being able to continue to do that and like tour with my friends is always really fun. Like, the three of us get along so well together on the road, and it's that's always really fun too. It's just like getting to travel with friends and like continue just making interesting work with like, you know, passionate, cool people that I know through comedy. I mean, my dad's a CPA, and the last time I was home, I was talking to his business partner because I dropped in on their office, and he was just asking me about everything, and I was kind of just like animatedly telling him about my life, and he stopped me and he was like, you know, you're the only person that I know at your age that's happy with their life. And I was like, man, that's I feel really bad for people that don't feel empowered to pursue something that makes them happy or makes them feel like they're being heard in some way. And yeah, it's like, he was like, yeah, I mean, I know you're not like the richest of the people that I know that are your age, because he has a daughter that's a year or two older than me, and like her and all of her friends are miserable, and like they don't know what they're doing. They've never really gone after anything. They're kind of just like treading water for something to happen, and just like no, I'm just gonna keep doing what I want to do and making projects that I think are really fun, and whether they go or not is out of my control, but like what's in my control is working on things that make me want to get out of bed every day.
I think that's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks. We always end by going to sleep, so good night, everybody. Thanks for listening to Sleeping with Sarah, where I slept with Brandie Posey. You can follow Brandie on Twitter and Insta at Brandazzle, and check out her podcast, Lady to Lady, and her album, Opinion Cave, on iTunes. This podcast is part of the Laugh Factory Podcast Network. Please remember to subscribe and rate and review on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and SoundCloud. This podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah. I'm releasing a new podcast each week. Be sure to tune in to find out who I have in bed with me next. Thanks to Josh Bryant for the music. You can view more on sleepingwithsarah.com, and please follow me on Twitter at Sarah Albritton. Until next time, good night.
Sleeping with Sarah.